game that there is. Final score was what, 2-1?
Yeah, 2-1, I think. Yeah, because it was 1-1 going into the 8th.
And this is a tight game that there is.
How's it going, guys?
Final score was what, 2?
Good, how are you?
Good. You guys all set up?
Yeah, I think so.
So we are live on Facebook, on YouTube.
Okay.
Perfect.
I will be live on Facebook in a bit. If it will allow me to go live on Facebook. I don't think it will.
So as we're going, guys, keep an eye on the chat. That's where people will be able to send questions and stuff your guys' way as you're going throughout.
Yep.
Okay.
And then make sure if you're going to reply in the chat area, you have to switch where it says to all panelists and attendees. Right now, you'll probably just set to all panelists.
Yeah, I just switched it.
Perfect.
Someone has the stream playing, and I'm hearing double. I don't know if that's for everyone else, but
Oh, that was me for a split second because I'm trying to get the link for the stream.
okay.
Yeah, sorry.
I'll put it in the chat.
Volume down.
Welcome, Connor.
Jake left.
Probably just watching it on another platform.
Yeah, probably.
Charles, is for the beginning part, is there going to be a bunch that we'll be able to skip through?
Not a chance. Not a chance.
I think that's just warming up for the first inning there. Yeah. Right there. That'll be the start there.
You're like here.
Yeah, right about there's probably good to start off at.
So as we go, guys, it'll be more or less you guys just kind of watching the game, giving some insight on the game itself, maybe your guys' season, maybe teammates and that. And then I'll jump in every once in a while too.
Cool.
Okay. Jake's back.
The thing is, though, is that we can only see chat on the Zoom, so we can't see if people ask questions on YouTube or anything like that.
The question function is disabled on the YouTube.
Oh, okay. That works.
Feel free to start up the video too if you want there, Charles. This one's going to be a long one.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll be here for a little bit.
We'll begin right at 7.
Goes into extras.
Get more money for your ticket. More bang for your money that way.
I gotta say though, it was a pretty quick game for being an 8-inning game. Like it
Yes.
didn't feel too long.
So let's start her up. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to DCSI Replay. This is the season finale of DCSI Replay. And today we are honored to have the men's baseball team with us to go over their championship. So here we go. Take it away.
Hi everybody, I'm Jacob Watson. I'm on the DC Lords men's baseball team.
And I'm Ryan Fisher. So one thing that was big about our season, I feel, Watson, was doing it for Sammy D.
Oh yeah, for sure, especially after the Missouri trip.
Yeah, the thing is about the Missouri trip is how long of a drive do you think that was?
I think without all the stops, it was about 12 hours or so. I think we left at 5 a.m. and we got there around, I don't know, 8:30 at night.
And I remember we at least stopped 4 or 5 times.
Yeah.
Half-hour break each stop. But Sammy D, well, on our way down, Sammy D woke us all up at 2:30 in the morning, and told us that it was going to be his last season, and that, after coaching with the Lords for so many years, I can't remember the exact amount of years he coached for, but since the start of the
28
program,
years.
yeah,
I think it was 28
program.
Yeah,
I
28
remember
guys.
I remember that we were on the bus coming back from Missouri, and it was like 2:30 in the morning. We were still 2 hours away from Durham, and he woke everybody up and gave us a nice little speech telling us how he was going to be done at the end of the year, and then we all went back to sleep.
It was a little emotional for him too, all those years. It's been his life for like the last almost 3 decades, right?
Yeah. No, I mean he's had such success too with the program, which I think is what really drove us to kind of give him something to go out on top on.
Definitely. Well, they won the national championship back in 2011, as well as the last season that we just played. I think the first one obviously will, mean a lot to him, but I think with Sammy D getting that championship in his final year, probably means a lot to him. Probably a lot more emotional for him.
Yeah, I do remember after the game, he kind of sat down on the bench by himself for a couple of minutes before joining everybody out on the field to shake hands and stuff, and
definitely wanted to reflect on what was happening. Probably getting flashbacks.
For sure. I think we all did.
Definitely getting flashbacks from the last 28 years of coaching, reflecting on everything.
How was that Missouri trip for you guys? I know there was a rain out there, but how was the trip as a whole?
I think it was a good trip. Like we only ended up getting to play one game due to all the rain they were getting down there, which, I mean, we made the long trip and only got to play one game, but it is what it is. You can't control the weather, but I think a trip like that where we kind of we all spent so much time together as a team off the field kind of helped build our chemistry a lot quicker than if we had just jumped right into the season.
Yeah, I totally agree. Definitely what we took away from going down to that Missouri trip was it was essentially for the game, but for the game experiences. But we definitely took away some great bonding and chemistry development.
Oh yeah, for sure. I don't think that, like, we did have a slower start to the season, but I really don't think we could have done what we did without a trip like that to kind of grow the team feel and not just be 20 some baseball players, but be an actual team.
For sure. And within that, um, we did only get to play the one game, as you said. And that was a good JUCO that we played. Those guys were some quality baseball players. That was a well put club. It's a well put together club.
Yeah, it was definitely a good team. It was definitely a different look at a different level of baseball, and I think it was we lost the game, but I think we gained more than just the loss on the record.
Yeah, for sure. With us both being our first year joining the team, I think it helped us a lot with bonding to some of the older players, some of the veterans, and developing that rookie vet connection.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, definitely got a better feel for everyone. Helped build chemistry. So, all in all, I think that trip was a success. Other than just the one game that we ended up playing.
Oh yeah, for sure. I agree entirely.
And even with that, when we went to the Cardinals game in St. Louis, we went to the Cardinals game, and the Cardinals game ended up getting rained out as well.
Yeah, I remember we got to the Diamond and it wasn't raining too bad, but we figured there might be a little rain delay to start. So we were all kind of walking around the building, and then all of a sudden just the heavens opened up on the field, and it was just an absolute downpour for the next like half hour. And then, the building staff, the stadium staff started telling everybody the game was going to be canceled.
Yeah, and one thing with that is when we were trying to group everyone together before we left, the staff started getting mad at us because we weren't leaving.
Yeah, I remember that.
And then they were doing a giveaway. You got a St. Louis themed pitcher, which was nice.
Yeah. And all in all, it was definitely a fun trip.
Yeah, we even got to go see the famous arch there in St. Louis.
Yeah,
it happened to be raining there as well.
That was an interesting pit stop when the bus had to make a U-turn on a street that was only about 15 feet wide.
The bus was, how many feet you think that bus was? At least 40.
At least 40, yeah, 30, 40. It was a standard coach bus, and the driver did a great job. He got us turned around without hitting anything, so that was good.
I don't know how he did it. We definitely gave him the applause that he deserved with pulling off that turn. Even the one thing with the arch when we were going to take pictures there, what made me laugh the most was Coach Scotty telling us that this is a great place to get a workout in going up and down the stairs.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
Scotty's all about conditioning and keeping us in the tip-top shape.
Yeah, I do remember that.
So once we got back from St. Louis, it was what, a week break until we had our first regular season game.
I think it was about a week or a week and a half or so, because we got back on like a Sunday night, and then I think we played the Saturday. So yeah, about a week.
Yeah, it was a week, and we, for a team that ended up, coming on top out of all of collegiates in Canada, right?
Yeah. Did we even practice during that week break?
No, we didn't have. Well, when we were in St. Louis, since the rain out, we ended up going into an indoor facility and practicing.
Yeah, that's right.
For 2 hours or so. But
so we had that practice, and then I remember we got back, and I don't think we had an actual team practice before our first game going into the season.
Yeah, for sure. We definitely we went into our first we went into our first doubleheader. Wait, no, it would be 4 games because we played 2 on Saturday and 2 on Sunday always, right?
That was the weekend we did 2 games on Saturday and only 1 on the Sunday.
Yeah, so our first, 4 games, including St. Louis. We never really had a true practice because all we did in St. Louis was just go through the motions. We didn't really work on anything like essentially team based. It was more like just hitting in the cages.
Yeah.
So we had a pretty rough start to the season.
Yeah, I was going to ask
Yeah,
you
we
guys
did.
about that. It was a tough record at the start, and then all of a sudden you guys turned it right around, eh?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was tough. I mean, I think it was we pulled together and had a team meeting. I think it was one of the mornings before our win streak started. We had everybody come to the field. I think it was like a half hour earlier than normal. And I remember we kind of just sat down in the locker room, and a couple of the vets like Connor May, Jake LeGros, Sam Cocker, they kind of took over the meeting and just they kind of sat us down and was like, look, boys, we're a lot better than, what we've been showing on the field so far. Let's just buckle down, play our baseball, and, give Sammy D something to remember for his last season. And I think that kind of just like drove us to want, not necessarily want to win more as much as we already wanted to win, but I think it just kind of gave us a little bit more focus and, slowed everything down. And that allowed us to kind of start that win streak. And then, we played pretty good baseball from there on out.
100%. With us starting the season off after the first month being 2-6, as you said, all the vets, got us together. We just sat in the locker room and just had a team chat, one that we haven't had before. And Connor said how we got a good group of ball players here, and we're much better than how we've been playing. And
Yeah.
even Fernando, his first year on the team, OC AA Rookie of the Year.
Yeah, I think it became a routine that in the locker rooms before games, Fernando would give us a nice little pep talk. I think the classic see ball, hit ball is he's got to walk down to first base there.
See the ball, hit the ball.
That was, that was what we looked forward to every morning before a doubleheader was hearing him say, see ball, hit ball, let's do it.
Yeah, he had a very simple approach to the plate. And I find that, some people, when they're in a little bit of a slump and they're not hitting as much as, they're expecting themselves to, they tend to have they overanalyze their at-bats and they start thinking too much.
Yeah.
Fernando always had a very calm head, very simple approach to the plate. He would just look for his pitch until it was 2 strikes. And if he didn't see his pitch until those 2 strikes, then he would just fight it off. And he always, I remember.
He pretty much just, when he got down to 2 strikes, he'd see the ball and he'd just hit it. Like, as long as it was in the strike zone, for the most part, he'd swing at it.
A very good hitter. I think he finished hitting 400 at least, right?
Yeah, and I think out of like the 30 hits he had like 12 doubles or something like that.
He was a doubles machine.
Oh yeah. I think he had 1 or 2 doubles this game because I know he scored after he hit a double, and then in the 8th inning is when he hit that double to get off the fence to get on second base.
Yeah, we were down 1-0 in the 8th.
Yeah.
And extra innings.
It was one. It was. I think it was it one. Yeah, it was the 7th, and then we put up that 1, and then because Fernando scored, and then we got around the order a little bit, and then he scored that game-winning run.
Yeah, he had a very simple approach, and he always, used to take me aside and always give me hitting tips. You couldn't ask more from a guy who's, been around the game much more than you. You couldn't ask for anything more than what Fernando gave the boys.
Oh, for sure.
Not
only did he just produce on the field, but just like as a locker room guy, he was a very good locker room guy.
Great teammate to have.
Oh, for sure.
Another player that, I think kind of surprised us all was Riley Gray.
Oh yeah, I know he went from being one of their pitchers last year to all of a sudden being one of our better hitters on the team.
Yeah, I remember Riley telling me he used to always give me rides to the games. He was telling me how he didn't really play much last year. Obviously, you and I weren't here to witness that, but he would tell us that he didn't play very much, and I think this is his third year,
Yeah,
and it was finally his time. His name was called, and he was ready. He went. Went on and He went on and ended up getting the batting title for the tournament here.
yeah. Didn't he win? And then he won. I think he won two player of the games out of the 5 games we had, and then ended up winning the tournament.
He was an all-star too
title
for the season.
Yeah, that's true too. I think we had five out of the 10 all-stars they announced, I think. Like we had
who was it? It was Kraus, Fernando, Riley, Sam, and Griffin.
Yeah.
He definitely pulled away with. He got 3 awards at the end of this game. I remember that.
Yeah, didn't he got like player of the game, hitter of the tournament, and then he got something else, I think.
I think it was MVP, honestly.
Yeah, I think it was. I think he got all 3 awards at the end of this game.
But yeah, as I was saying, he was ready when his name was called. He didn't play much the first 2 years he was here, and third year was his time to shine. His number was called by Sammy D, and you couldn't ask for much more.
Oh, not at all. I think, when someone just goes and performs the way that he did, and, not just him, we had a bunch of guys that, performed when they needed to. But I think that's really what was the key for us was when guys were called on and they were needed to perform. When your name was called, just about everybody on our roster, did what they were asked to do.
For sure. Obviously you have your starters on the team, and there were the bench players, both of us being some of them. But,
Yeah.
When our numbers were called regarding anyone, not just us two, but when our numbers were called, everyone was ready to play. We all contributed this season, and I think it was great.
Yeah, I think definitely one of the best bench guys or non-starters, I guess, would definitely have been JT. When he would warm up. He'd be sent down to the bullpen just about every single game.
He'd be sent down to the bullpen in the 4th inning for every game and be warming up until the 7th, and never really got in. But when he did get in, he pitched well.
I do remember when we were at Fanshawe, and I think it was game 1, and Jake LeGros started, I believe, and he got into a little bit of trouble in the first. It might not have been LeGros, but I think it was one of those 2 games. And I remember our starter got into a little bit of trouble in the first, and then they sent JT down to the bullpen just to get loose, just in case things got out of hand. And then JT and I, we were in the bullpen together, and I was catching him in the bullpen for the next 5 innings straight. Just we'd warm up, and then we'd go to hit, and we'd stop for a bit. And I remember the next inning would start, and Coach Scott would just look down to the bullpen and say, "Hey, make sure you're still loose." And we'd get back to throwing, and
yeah,
and then he didn't even pitch that game because we stayed out of trouble and put a whole bunch of runs up on the board. So he didn't pitch that game. And then I think it was the 4th inning of game 2 in that doubleheader, he went back down to the bullpen to warm up again.
Yeah, he ended up throwing a whole game in the bullpen, something like 80, 90 pitches at least.
Yeah, I can tell you my knees were definitely feeling that when we got onto the bus.
Another player to talk about, the guy that's up to bat right now, Story. Throughout the season, he struggled at the plate, compared to what he did in the playoffs, and then that's when the nickname Playoff Story came into play. He was red hot. He was as hot as you could be at the plate during the playoffs.
Yeah, come the OCs, I don't know what it was. It's like, a little light switch just flicked on, and it was almost like it was harder for him to get out than to get a hit. Like,
I think he ends up striking out at this at bat, but definitely during the OC AA's, he was on fire. He had a couple multi-hit games at least.
Yeah.
So we got runners on first and second here, or second and third. I can't see.
I think we got bases loaded right now.
Bases loaded, 2 outs. Up comes Johnny Mac.
Johnny Mac. That's another one of the guys where, he didn't get too much time as a starter, but when his name was called, he'd do what he had to do to help the team.
I remember a game in Seneca we played. Bases loaded, just the same scenario it is right now. Bases loaded, 2 outs. Jonathan McIntosh. He destroys a baseball. Bases loaded, goes right to the track, almost hits a grand slam. And all the boys were hyped up on the bench. And then Coach Colin. Coach Colin turns around and says, "Hey, it's just an out."
I remember that because everybody was just sitting on the bench, and we were like, I think we weren't like, out of the game or anything like that. We were still focused, but when it came down to it, we were just kind of sitting on the bench waiting to see what would happen. And then just out of nowhere, there was just the biggest crack of the bat, and everybody just saw the ball going up, and we thought it was going to leave. And then, the guy caught it, and we were going nuts because, it ended up scoring a run. And
he did get the sac fly for it, but I'm sure he would have much preferred the grand slam.
Oh yeah, if the wind had been blown out that day, it would have went for sure.
That was a cold day. Everyone was in long sleeves. We were wearing the parkas, the hand warmers. That was a cold day. If that was on a warmer day, that ball probably would have went out.
Oh, for sure.
But I think the reason why all of us, got super excited was this was, if memory serves me correct, this was Johnny Mac's first at bat in a while.
Yeah, I think so. I think it was because he'd been pitching mostly for us at the time.
At the start of the season, yeah.
And he hadn't really been. I think he played the outfield against Lambton in the first game, I think. But other than those games, he really hadn't had too many at bats this year, and it was his first one in a while. And all of a sudden, it was just crack, balls flying.
Yeah,
and we all thought it was leaving the park. But
another person to talk about coming off the bench, Lucas Fasulo.
Yeah, that's a guy that he definitely outperformed any expectations by far.
Yeah, with him being a rookie, 5'7" Italian kid, it doesn't look like he can hit a baseball far, but when he connects, he puts a good smack into the ball.
Oh yeah.
He was a great left fielder, great bat bench. Good around rookie season for Fasulo. He got a couple starts too.
Yeah, he got a few starts, and then we kind of as a whole, I think it was probably it wasn't until really late in the season that we actually solidified our starting nine really. Like,
yeah,
I think
sure.
During that win streak we had at the end of the season, like, the lineups were definitely different most games, and that includes the batting order in some cases.
Well, I think what happened was throughout the season, whoever played in the field it depended on who was pitching.
Yeah.
And speaking of pitching, pitcher of the year, Jason Krause.
Yeah, Krause had a great year. Like,
it was definitely one for the record books.
well, I mean, pitcher of the year, that's not easy to come by.
Well, Krause, he had a stretch of like 6 or 7 straight starts where he went complete games, and I think in only one of the games out of the 6 or 7, he gave up a run.
Yeah, I think he went in 4 complete games. He had 3 complete game shutouts.
Yeah, and then the one was a 1-run
like
game against St. Clair.
St. Clair, yeah.
That was the game where they had that tall lefty who threw high 80s.
Yeah, that was the guy from, I think he was Dominican or something.
Yeah, he was Dominican. That game, I remember, bases are juiced, and it's like bottom of the 5th, and we're up like 2-0 or something, or 2-1 or something like that. And there was 1 out, and I'm sure just as everyone was thinking, hopefully there's not a hit given up here. 1 out, hopefully it's a strikeout or like a weak ground ball that we can get the out at home. But I remember Krause dicing up the mound there, painting corners, ended up getting us a double play to get us out of that inning, and in result of that ended up letting us win that ball game.
Oh yeah, that was. Yeah, I think it was definitely a big play for us, and that weekend against, I believe it was the last game we lost during the regular season against St. Clair, when we lost that game there. I think wasn't a great score. Or sorry, no, it was the game against Seneca, our last loss of the season. I think that was the game that we lost 18-17, and each team had something like 20 some odd hits.
I actually wasn't at that game. I was extremely sick in my room, so I wasn't there for that game. I wish I was, because it seemed like everyone was going in to pitch. Didn't Fernando end up pitching, from what I heard?
Yeah, that's right. We ran out of arms. We ran out of arms, so Fernando said to Coach Scott and Coach Sam AD, and he just goes, Coach, I promise I can throw. And they were like, okay. So they just sent him out to the mound.
How did he end up doing?
He did all right. I think he went only 1 inning, just because I think he went in like the 6th, so he only went 1 inning, and then can't remember who closed the game out. But I mean, an 18-17 ball game, not too many pitchers are doing too well.
Yeah, it's definitely if you like offense in baseball, then that was the game that you wanted to be at.
Yeah, for sure.
Regarding pitching with Jason Krause,
didn't you guys have a few of those games this year where there was quite a bit of offense?
We were definitely a loud hitting team.
You guys got the OCAA record this year for one of your games?
Yeah, I think it was the game against. It was the doubleheader against.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah,
we
it was Seneca at home.
We definitely didn't have an issue scoring runs. I would say definitely, if we had a weak part of our game, it was on the pitching side, because offense was never really a struggle for us.
Yeah, I'd say. I mean, I wouldn't say that pitching was a weakness of ours, but between pitching and hitting, it was definitely the weaker of the two.
Yeah. And regarding pitching, it's hard not to think about Josh Kay, our solid number 2 on the mound this year.
Yeah, he he performed when he had to, that's for sure. Just like I was saying about the rest of the roster, everybody kind of did what they had to do when they needed to do it. So
Yeah, shout out to him. He just signed to play some semi-pro ball with the London Knights.
Yeah, in the IBL, he just signed a contract there.
So congratulations to Josh. Not many people get to do that. So, one thing regarding nationals, I think it was in not the semifinals, but I think it was still the first or second game that we played. Mitchell Heineman, he didn't pitch an inning all year, and then his name gets called in nationals, and he shuts down the side, 3 up, 3 down.
Yeah.
We were all looking at each other on the bench saying, we could have had
where's this guy been?
We had this all year?
Yeah. How many innings did he go to that game? Was it just the one, or
I think he just pitched the one.
Yeah, that's right. He went 3 up, 3 down, and then they took him out of the game.
Yeah, he definitely he did go 3 up, 3 down, and I remember us all looking at each other.
Did you guys have any time to prep or anything when you guys actually found out you were facing Thompson River in the final here?
Not really. I mean, we knew we were playing a team that wasn't from Ontario because we had beat Humber in the I think it was the quarterfinals that we beat them.
Semifinal. Always nice to mention.
Semifinals, yeah. We beat them in the semis. So we knew we were playing a team. I think they ended up playing, it was either we were going to play a team from Quebec or it would have been a team from PEI, the Holland College Hurricanes. We would have played either them or Thompson River. So we knew we were playing a team that we hadn't seen before. And I kind of think it was more of a mentality of like, well, let's just play our game. You know, we don't really know anything about them. So we'll kind of just adapt on the fly. And, you know, it was a 2-1 ball game that went 8 innings. So, you know, I think we did a pretty good job on both sides, like adapting to, you know, the other team. But, you know, obviously we were the ones that came out on top. So,
and the one thing with facing True Wolfpack here is the coach was talking on Twitter.
Yeah, their coach posted a video, or their athletics page. I remember they posted a video before the game. They did an interview with their coach, and I think it kind of fired us up because the coach was saying that, you know, because we were in Ontario, we weren't able to play baseball all year round like they can in BC, and it was a different type of game out there or something like that. And I think when we heard about that on the bus to the game, I think it kind of fired everybody up and was like, whoa, I mean, let's show them what we can do then.
Yeah, I'm not saying this quote for quote, don't quote me on this, but it was something along the lines of how we couldn't play summer ball here and that they are the much more prepared team for this game.
Yeah,
something along the lines of that.
along those lines. And then I remember something about them saying they weren't used to the cold weather or something like that. And,
yeah, and then once we beat
game,
them, then he's like, well, the cold weather. Yeah.
I mean, it is what it is. You know, we're not going to be sore winners about it, but it definitely fired us up.
It definitely was motivation. Definitely was motivation. And the last 4 years, the titles stayed in Ontario with St. Clair. Did St. Clair win it? I know Fanshawe won it, Humber won it, and then we won it, and then there was another year.
Yeah, I think 4 years ago, I think it was St. Clair that ended up winning it. So
yeah, when they started the NCBC championship, Fanshawe won the first, and then St. Clair the second.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then Humber won the previous year.
Kind of Ontario domination, right?
That's a good thing to talk about is our little unspoken rivalry with Humber.
Yeah. I mean, as a whole, I think, you know, the athletics of both schools have, you know, kind of a small rivalry, but I definitely, you know, in attending some of the games, you know, of other sports teams at Durham, I definitely noticed that, our rivalry with Humber was definitely unmatched with any of the other teams. And I think it kind of just added fuel to the fire whenever we played. Like I noticed that when we played Humber, the energy on both sides was way higher than most games.
And one thing in OCs is that did we not play Humber twice in OCs?
We ended up playing them 3 times in OCs because we played them in the round robin game, and we did not have a very good game at all against them. We lost 10-0. And
that's the one thing. The one thing I wanted to bring up about that is they had the pitcher that they threw against us 3 times, and he shut us out, or not shut us out, but he definitely limited our offense in both games.
Yeah, I think his name was Huff. Huff was the guy's name. And I remember we played them, and then because it was a double elimination tournament in the OCs,
we ended
up having to play. Yeah, and we ended up having to play Humber twice in the final, and we would have had to beat them twice to win it because we already had a loss under our belt, and they were undefeated going into the final still. So it was definitely a good weekend of baseball. We didn't come out on top in that tournament, but I think we won when it mattered most at the end of the year. So,
well, with Humber hosting nationals, they had a bye. Regardless of where they finished, they were going into nationals. So
yeah,
going into it, we knew that we were going to nationals, but we still wanted to compete to the highest level and try to, come first place, even though we had to beat them twice.
And really be able to say, we deserve it. I mean, as much as we did, that OCAA championship would have been nice to have under our belts as well.
In order for you guys to make the nationals, you guys had to finish top 2. Once Humber kind of booked their ticket. So, what was that semifinal game against St. Clair like? That one was tight and came down to the very end there with the umpires getting in there.
Yeah, it was one of those things where St. Clair was another one of our, I guess, rivals. It's hard to have too many rivals in a was it 6-team league?
6.
So I mean, Humber or St. Clair, sorry, that game, I think we kind of just went into it and was like, our mentality was like, if we win this game, we've got that spot going to nationals. So like, why would let's not let these guys take that spot from us.
Well, definitely within the 6 teams in the conference, us being one of them, St. Clair and Humber definitely were the ones that, gave us the most run for our money, regarding into outcomes of ball games.
Yeah, for sure. Because I remember, especially St. Clair, our opening weekend of the season, we really didn't start out too well, and 2 of our losses came from St. Clair to open the season up.
Yes.
So they definitely beat us then, but we won when it mattered most, when it came down to the OCAAs. So I think it was just like I've been saying, just more fuel to the fire.
Definitely agree. It was definitely a log thrown on to keep the fire going and get that spark a little higher.
You guys weren't kidding, eh? This game's moving pretty fast to start off.
It gets interesting in the later innings, especially if you know baseball and the strategy behind it. I feel like one common misconception about baseball and watching baseball, the people who say baseball is boring to watch, I feel don't know the amount of strategy and the behind the scenes stuff that the average person wouldn't really pick up on unless you knew the sport.
Yeah, and I mean, it's definitely, I will give people credit, it's definitely a long game to watch, but games like soccer and football are just as long as baseball. So I mean, it's all the little things. Like if you understand the little intricacies of the game, I think it helps you enjoy the game a little bit better.
Baseball is it's one of the sports where, you're standing for, 85% of the time. And then for that remaining 15%, it's, the speed is 100. There's no in between.
It's one of those games where it goes from 0 to 100, like just like that.
And one thing, when you say 0 to 100, just like the snap of a finger, people don't realize how little amount of time you have to decide whether a ball's or a strike and whether you should swing at it when you're batting.
Yeah. It's, people say, oh yeah, hitting's hard, but if you practice it, you can be good at it, which is true in most cases for just about every sport. But I think when it comes to baseball, like I'd have to say the amount of hours baseball players, everybody, not just us, but the amount of hours hitters work on their swing, and I think it's I feel like it's unmatched, at this level in any other sport, because we've got our team practices and whatever, but most of the guys on our team, we're going and getting we're getting extra work in on the side on our days off, or even after our team practices, guys are staying late to get their own little work in. And I feel like that's kind of one of the things that separates the work ethic in baseball from a lot of other sports.
You got to have a strong mindset. You got to be very level-headed, because baseball is a game of failure. In the major leagues, in order to get into the Hall of Fame and, be a 300 career hitter, you have to fail 7 out of 10 times. And that's the game's best.
Yeah. So, there's not too many other sports where, if you're shooting 30% in basketball as that's not the greatest shooting percentage out there.
It hurts the team.
And but in baseball, if you're getting a hit 30% of the time, you're a big part of that team. And when you can have multiple guys on your team like we did that were hitting that well, hitting over that 300 line, that really helped us secure a lot of our wins.
Definitely offensive threat for sure this year. A lot of people were able to hit in the 300s.
Yeah, we were definitely one of the better offensive teams. I think we led the league in runs scored. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure we led the league in that category.
And the thing with baseball too is that you can't get caught up in the numbers.
No, not at all.
Because if you're going up to the plate and you're 0 for 3 in that ball game, and it's the bottom of the 7th, and say for example, there's a runner on second and that guy is the tying or winning run. If you're thinking to yourself the whole time, okay, I got to hit this ball, I got to get him in, you're not going to.
No, you can't think about that. You got to think about, okay, what do I have to do? Get a hit. Okay, don't worry about driving the run in. Just think about hitting the ball hard. And if you hit the ball hard, more times than not, the ball's going to fall in for a hit. And sometimes
you do get those hard lineouts or those deep fly balls.
I think every baseball player that in college baseball and has played the game their whole life can say that the worst feeling in the world as a hitter is when you absolutely barrel a baseball and it's a line drive right at one of the infielders' chests.
Funny you say that. I remember Lambton. I made my debut for the Lords, and it was a 3-0 count. And unless you're one of the premier hitters of the league or the team, you aren't swinging on a 3-0 count.
No, you're taking your chances that you're going to get walked. And even if they do throw you a strike, you're up 3-1, and you're probably going to see a nice fastball at the next pitch anyway.
And my first at bat, it was 3-0 count, and all the guys on the bench were saying, "Swing, you won't. Swing, you won't." I'm thinking in my head, I'm like, there was 2 outs, no one on. I'm like, first at bat, there's really nothing for me to lose here.
I was one of those guys yelling "swing." I can attest to that.
So I step into the box thinking, I'm like, okay, I'm not just gonna swing out of my shoes here and swing at any pitch that I see. I'm sitting on my pitch, and happened is the pitcher ended up throwing my pitch. It was a fastball low and down the middle, and I barrel that ball. It was the loudest crack. Everyone, as soon as I made connection with the ball, everyone on the bench was freaking out. They were like, "Oh my God, jeez," right?
Yeah,
Absolute missile, and it was a line out straight to the center fielder. I don't even think he had to move.
I think all he had to do was put his glove up to his chest and catch the ball.
Yeah. Didn't take one step.
Everybody was like, "Oh, that's a double for sure." And then the guy just didn't move and caught the ball, and the bench kind of just got real quiet real fast. It was like, well then.
And then I remember I was running down because, when you hit a ball that hard, you're thinking automatically, second base.
Yeah,
I remember once it was caught,
still running to.
He caught it, and I was rounding first, about halfway to second, and then he catches it. I start running back, and then Colin, who was our first base coach, he says, "Don't ever do that again." And then I just had to smile. I had to smile and shake it off. And then the next bat, I ended up getting my first hit, but that was definitely one of the funnier moments for me throughout the season.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, it's definitely a good one.
What's a memory that sticks out to you throughout the season when you think back about with you playing, not just someone else, but within your own personal playing experience?
I think my best memory for myself was, I think it was my debut game against Fanshawe. I was in the pinch hit, and I remember I got a fastball on the outer half of the plate with 2 strikes, and I popped it up kind of in that dead man's territory back behind first base in shallow right field. And I'm thinking, this might drop, and if I hustle, I can get to second. But, I'm just hustling to first, hoping I get the hit.
You're not the fastest runner.
I'm not the fastest runner in the world by any means. So I'm a little more overconfident, than I should have been. But I rounded first base, and I was rounding first base. I noticed that the ball kicked off the second baseman's foot because he tried to make a sliding catch. And the moment I saw it kick off his foot, I took off to second.
I remember.
And he happened to kick it right to the right fielder, who then threw me out by about 30 feet.
And then we just remember we were just sitting at the bench like, oh, what is he thinking?
Yeah, I remember.
It wasn't even a close play too, which kind of made it more bitter than it was.
Realistically, I could have just gone in standing and allowed the guy to tag me, but I went in sliding just to make it look close, but it really wasn't by any means.
Yeah, and he caught the ball and he was sitting there for at least 5 seconds waiting for you to catch up.
Yeah, I don't know if it was 5 seconds, but I mean, I'm also a slow runner, so it could have been. But yeah, I remember
5 seconds is
I jogged past Colin, and Colin says to me, he goes, "Hey, you're not fast. Don't do that." I just kind of said, "Okay."
One thing a lot of people, don't know about Colin unless you play on his team and have him as a coach is that I don't know how he does it, but he always has something, funny or sassy to say to you. If, even if you do something right, he's still got that side comment. And it was something that I think was definitely to remember.
I definitely enjoyed that for sure. I enjoyed that because he always kept you in check, and he didn't really, if you were maybe not goofing off on the bench, but if you were kind of, your head wasn't fully in the game, he'd let you know. But then, if you did something right, he'd congratulate you on you doing something right. But then he would always have something for you to fix about that, so that you can do it better next time. And
he would always.
That's one of the better things that I think, one of his better traits was definitely, he always had something you could improve on, even if you were successful.
One thing with Colin is that no matter the outcome, whether you just hit a home run, well, maybe he wouldn't critique you on a home run, but whether you got a single to right field or, a strikeout, he would always find something positive to talk to you about. And then he would also give you something for, as coaches do, they give you tips and advice on, how to fix things that could be more fine edged, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
I don't remember the last time I did this much talking.
You guys keep getting him in trouble here, eh? Keep getting guys on bases.
One thing that the Humber commentators kept talking about was we got runners in scoring position, but we just could not catch them in. 44 did a good job, for the Wolfpack. He did a good job of, shutting us down when there was runners on scoring position. The commentators were saying, is this going to end up biting them in the back, and not being able to catch these runners in? And, thankfully that didn't happen. We cashed them when it mattered, but that was definitely something that we struggled to do throughout this game, was cash our runners.
Yeah, I think if we had a cash runners in like we had been all season, I don't think this would have been nearly a close enough game because, as they had runners on, quite a bit too, we definitely left a lot of runners on base this game.
Yeah, 44 definitely. He did a good job when he was pitching from the stretch. And another player that I think we talk about that, he didn't really get the accolades or like the notice or the not the popularity, but the attention that he deserved was Palmer Cruikshank.
Yeah,
our
Palmer was one of those
first baseman.
Palmer was one of those guys where he was, he wasn't an outgoing character by any means, but he just kind of grinded and did what he had to do and definitely helped the team.
Well, one thing that, I noticed throughout the whole year and everyone else on the team talked about was his amazing defense. Palmer's an amazing defender. He's able to pick throws out of the dirt. Great defensive player. So honestly, with defensive players that we're talking about, Griffin Oliver too, our shortstop.
Oh, definitely one of the better defensive players in the league, in my opinion, for sure. Yeah, Griff had a great year defensively, and at the plate he also did pretty well. But yeah, definitely that defense is one of the things that really helped us to win this championship and push us through the whole season. When pitchers weren't getting strikeouts, anything that seemed to be hit in the infield was an out for us.
Yeah, we were a sharp defensive team, which definitely helped us out a lot with limiting runs.
Yeah.
And I don't remember. I could be incorrect about this, but didn't Griff play with torn rotator cuff the whole year?
Yeah, in his fielding hand, his left arm, he had a torn rotator cuff, and I remember he'd wear a brace in order to be able to play for us, and he pushed through it on the whole season, and he he had the
And then
surgery this
as soon
offseason.
as the season ended, he got that surgery. But
yeah,
when you talk about like tough ball players that gave it their all in the MLB, like Pete Rose, kind of his kind of game kind of reflects Griff's style of play. A hard guy who would always leave it on the field. Overall, just a tough player who really, when it came down to it, he put everything that he could on the line to help our team succeed.
oh yeah, and he did a great job at it. That's for sure.
He had a phenomenal arm too. He had great arm. He didn't need much time to load up that arm, but it
No,
just
he
seemed
was
like a quick snap, and 80, 82, 83 plus across the diamond at all times.
yeah, he was definitely one of our key points on defense.
Well, being at shortstop, some people call that the captain of the defense. Some people call the catcher the captain of the defense. But, both those positions play a key role, and you do have to be a premier defender to play those positions well.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the things that we should talk about is our starting catcher, Sam Cocker.
I was just about to get into that. Sam Cocker. What a character.
He's a character. Defensive wall behind the plate. Like, he blocked everything. And he just was a great hitter as well. He was one of our all-stars on the team. And he seemed to just be one of the more consistent players on the team. That's for sure.
With you mentioning his defense, it's hard to ignore his arm strength. I mean, the guy's a unit.
Oh, he's got a cannon for an arm. Like, I'd really be interested to see the season stats for him in terms of how many base runners, he actually had steal a base off him. I would be surprised if it was more than 4 or 5 stolen bases given up, and a lot of those were pitches in the dirt that he blocked, and it was still a close play at second.
He did always make that runner make sure that they were giving it 100%, whether the pitch was in the dirt or he had to jump up and get it or it was to the side. He always made sure that the play was close, and definitely one of the, in my opinion, the best catcher in the league.
Oh, in my opinion, by far, I think he was outright the best catcher defensively and offensively.
He did hit a lot of doubles. When he did hit the ball, it was hard.
Yeah, I'm looking at it now. He had 4 doubles and 2 triples. And as a catcher myself, there aren't too many catchers out there that can leg out a triple. For a catcher, catchers typically are not the fastest on the ball field, but Sam definitely broke all those stereotypes. I'm pretty sure he recorded the fastest time for our first to second when coach timed us. Yeah, one of our practices, I remember we just timed our runs to second base to get our times and figure out who should and shouldn't be stealing second base. And Sam got the fastest time on the team, I think, and for being a catcher, that's not it's not too heard of.
And with that being said, with the timed base running on who should steal bases and who should not, I think someone that really surprised the coaches with those times were Ian Legault. Because when you think about it, prior to us getting timed on that, I don't think Ian appeared in a game. And then I think it was maybe 1/3 into the season they did that.
And then he started getting pinch running appearances. When we had runners in scoring position late in the game,
he actually ended up pinch hitting or pinch running for Fernando when he hit that double. Wait, no, Fernando got walked, and then Ian stole second.
Yeah, I remember that was the play at second where he I think his cleat or something caught on the bag, and or no, his hand jammed on the bag and he jammed up his shoulder a little bit.
He ended
But-
up scorpioning.
Yeah, that was. I mean, he was safe, so that's all that mattered. But
Yeah,
that was a very interesting play to say the least.
yeah.
I think it comes up in the sixth or seventh inning. He did that.
One thing growing up playing baseball is I would come home from games, and jamming your pinky, swiping a bag, or um, tweaking an ankle, making a diving play or something, and then you would come home and tell your dad, hey, I tweaked my ankle really bad today, making a diving catch. And then I'm pretty sure this goes for all baseball dads, and they would say, not, oh, is your ankle okay? They would say, well, did you catch it? Did you make the out?
Yeah. Yeah.
And then you're like, yeah, I did. And he's like, well, it was worth it.
Very true. I can attest to that. My dad's the same way, and I gotta say, besides that, it always seems that if you make a play and you get hurt on the play, if you make that catch or you're safe at second when you steal a bag, it almost seems that it doesn't hurt nearly as much if you make the play.
Yeah, it's definitely a little more less painful when you make the attempt successful.
Yeah, I remember I had a couple innings at second base, and during practice, a lot of guys went all out at practice and gave their best, and if you could make that diving play at practice, you would, because it looks cool. And I remember there's one practice we had where I made a dive. I made a dive at second base, and I got the ball, and I felt nothing. I landed on my chest, whatever. It felt great. And then at Fanshawe in that same game that I got thrown out at second base, I was playing second, and I had an identical play come and I missed it. And it was probably, the ground felt very, very firm because it hurt.
I think I remember the exact play you're talking about. It was a ground ball up the middle in between short and second, and then you stretched out, and I saw you get up, kind of, my chest.
Yeah, that was not a fun 5 minutes after that. That's for sure. But yeah, no, this is we're in the fourth inning here now, and we're down 1-0. And I think this is when the cold was kind of getting to the guys as the sun was going down, and we were down 1-0, and the morale on the bench was kind of like, oh yeah, it's a 1-0 game, it's whatever, we'll come back. And then the cold kind of came in, and everybody was like, okay, it's getting cold, like, are we going to be able to put up a couple of runs here? And I think that I think Fernando came into the dugout, and he just kind of looked at everybody and just yelled, let's go, or something along those lines, and just fired everybody back up. I think that was at the end of the fifth inning, or middle of the fifth, I think it was. And that's when we started being able to cash some of those runners.
One thing with the bench and us hyping each other up is we had some very unique sayings or words that we would say to hype up the team. It's definitely something that I've never been a part of prior to this year. We had some funky chants to get everyone excited.
I can say out of the 3 college baseball teams I've been a part of, this was definitely the one full of the most characters. That's for sure.
And I feel like some people might misinterpret characters. I think what you're trying to say by that is people with, good personalities.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Not characters in any bad way, but we had a lot of guys with, everybody on our team was there, and they were there to win, and they were there to win as a team, and they weren't really there for themselves. And, if you did something, everyone on the bench was going to congratulate you for doing it, and I think that's what I meant by characters and personalities. And even when there wasn't anything, going on and we were just kind of cheering the team on from the bench, I think that was one of the things that really separated us from a lot of other teams in the league, was just some of the wacky things we would say, or,
It definitely threw off the pitchers. And whenever we would say stuff, no matter where we are, whether it was at home or at a visiting diamond, the opposing team and the fans would, give us a weird look like, what are you saying? Glass of milk?
Who got
Fanshawe was
Humnow
definitely
going?
one of those.
Humnow's, it's always been around baseball, but I feel like on this team, it really, I wouldn't say it was the most common saying on other teams personally with my experience, but this team, it was definitely our number one.
Yeah,
one thing
I'd say for every 10 things that came out of our dugout to the, like, when we were yelling it onto the field, I'd say probably 7 or 8 of them was probably a hum now from someone else.
Yeah, at least one out of every 3 words that came out of someone's mouth was hum now, or now hum.
Oh yeah. Yeah, now hum started to take off a little bit when we I don't even know why, we just started saying it backwards and it caught on.
Well, the one thing that I liked about our team is that we could literally say anything and it would fire the boys up.
Oh yeah, you could yell at someone that was at the plate, or especially Jason Krause. He was one of those guys where he definitely loved hearing the wacky stuff while he was on the mound pitching, because it'd be super serious and he could kind of just, someone would yell out something like chocolate milk to the field, and he would kind of just look over, give the dugout a smirk, and then strike the guy out. And it was kind of just, it was just one of those things that, just caught on.
It's hard for batters to be in the box when the opposing teams, you're thinking, as baseball's a very, mental game. You got to be very mentally strong. And the opposing team is saying Taco Bell, double beef quesarito at the top of their lungs. It kind of throws you off. So definitely fired the boys up in that way.
Oh yeah, we definitely could have put together a grocery list with all the stuff we said.
That total would have been at least $300 throughout the season with all the food items.
Sure. Oh, for sure.
Wendy's 4 for $4 meal was definitely one of my favorites.
That was a good one. Yeah.
One thing that I think we should talk about is, our supporters. With the whole DC for DC thing that the school has going on, I think it's great.
Yeah, it's awesome.
The softball team was definitely great supporters of us throughout the season.
Whenever we were playing and they weren't, they were at our games. And I think just having those extra fans in the stands, it kind of, not that we really think about the fans during the game too much, as we kind of got to keep our heads straight and focused. It's nice to be able to, someone hits a double and the whole stadium over at Kinsman is screaming and yelling and cheering, and it's just an extra little energy boost for us. And I think we had probably one of the better home crowds in the conference for sure.
Definitely gives us momentum.
Oh yeah.
And we got our ball boy Al.
Yeah, he was great. He was one of our best supporters for sure.
Every home game, he was always there.
Yeah, and he definitely, he was one of our ball boys, and one of our better supporters. And I think if someone hit a double or made a great play in the field, he was one of the people in the stands yelling at the top of his lungs, letting everybody know that something great just happened. Yeah. I think is this the at bat that Fernando scores Riley on the double?
I can't see the score. Is it 0-0?
It's 1-0 in the top of the 5th.
So this might be the at bat where he hits it off the top of the fence.
Yeah.
And when you think about it, if that launch angle off the bat was, 1 degree less or 1 degree more, that ball, would have gave us a 2-1 lead. right off of that swing. It's crazy to
I
think.
remember when he got back to the dugout and after the inning was over, and he said, "I didn't even think I hit it that hard."
Fernando, he hits shots. He destroys
Oh,
baseballs.
there it goes. And I think.
And it bounces off the top of the fence.
Yeah. As you can see you can see all of us come out of the
All of
dugout.
us coming
we all
out. We
all
thought
thought the ball was going.
Yeah, exactly. It was a loud smack for sure. And then Fernando, being the smart guy he is, I didn't even think it was that hard. Okay, Fernando.
Yeah, he crushed that ball. He crushed it. And then I think it was who scored there? I think it was it Griffin Oliver that scored? Yeah, because Riley Gray's at the plate now, so it was Griffin Oliver that scored on that. But I remember, he hit it, and we all came out of the dugout, and then it hit the top of the wall, and we were all like, it was like a simultaneous awe.
Well, it was honestly a little bit of confusion at first because the odds of that happening where it bounces back into the ballpark.
A lot of guys, I was one of them too, that I thought it hit the hedges behind, because I thought it had hit the fence and then bounced off the hedges and came back in. And I was like, well, I hope one of these umpires, can figure that out. And then, it came to it that they decided it did hit the top of the wall. And then, when we saw the replay, we saw it did hit the top of the wall and whatnot. And I think we're just lucky that left fielder went to the wrong spot on the wall to try and catch it.
Yeah, it was definitely one that he would not have had to jump for.
No, I mean, it's a pretty short fence in terms of the fence height. So I think it was a 6-foot fence at their park. And, that left fielder could have probably just put his glove up and caught the ball had he run about 15 feet to his left. But, that's baseball. We got lucky with that. And
baseball is a game of inches, whether it's fair foul or a home run or a double.
Yeah. And I think one of those things that, really stood out for me was that, in this game here, it truly was like a game of inches with how tight of a ball game it was. I think it was after we scored this run, tensions kind of grew and we were really, the team was fired up a little more on both sides because, they had kind of fallen into a lull of, we're up 1-0 and they're not scoring anybody.
The momentum definitely shifted our way and they were kind of on their heels after that.
Yeah. And then, I think we had a couple of good chances to score in the seventh, and we didn't capitalize. And then, there's the replay of Fernando's almost home run. Looking at that swing, like I'm shocked that it didn't go.
That's crazy that happened.
The thing is I think everybody in the ballpark, including the left fielder, if you see, he thought it was going out. Like
if you watch
he jumped
his
up
head,
on the fence.
If you watch his head, it was looking on the other side of the fence.
Yeah, and then it's
how
almost
far
like,
is that? I know Kinsman's a deep outfield. How far is
where
this one?
Where it hit the fence was probably around.
It says 330 in left field there.
So the fence where he hit it was probably about 345, 350, maybe. It's because it juts out a little bit in left and then kind of smooths out in center.
And
so it's
he hit that ball 351 feet. It just happened didn't get over, that one extra inch that it needed to be a home run.
Yeah. If the fence was an inch lower, that ball is hitting off the fence and going,
It's crazy to think about. Personally in my life, in baseball, I think that's kind of a one-time thing where you'll never see something like that again.
Oh, for sure. I've played baseball. I've been around the game for this summer will be about 18 years for me. And I've never been in or a part of a game where a ball hits the top of the wall and comes back in.
And one thing to talk about with this runner on second here, I wasn't even playing, and my heart was pumping. I was nervous as hell.
Oh yeah, I was in the bullpen. I think this was when I was in the bullpen with probably JT, and and I remember we were in the bullpen and we took a pause where we kind of just watched the game for a little while because Jake LeGros was having a great outing, giving up 1 run over 8 innings.
He definitely pitched a great outing and the most important start of his baseball career.
Oh yeah, I'd say so. Definitely the most important for our team that year for sure. And he came out and performed, as good if not better than anybody could have asked.
And one thing with Jake LeGros is that he's not a guy that's going to blow you away with velocity, but he's going to get you out with those off-speed pitches. He's phenomenal with locating his pitches. If you watch the next half inning when LeGros comes back up, if you watch where our catcher Sam puts his glove, majority of the time LeGros, no matter what the pitch type is going to hit him right in that glove. And LeGros definitely hits his spots, and he gets you out with his off speed and his location, not blowing you away with velocity. And I think in some cases, then that's much harder to do than getting someone out with velocity.
Yeah, it's definitely a different kind of art to pitching. It's it's definitely a different kind of. You gotta be. I don't want to say a better pitcher because guys that throw hard, hitters, as a hitter myself, if it's guys throwing hard, you're probably just expecting you're going to get a hard fastball, and all it comes down to is making sure you're on time and swinging in the right spot. But when it comes to a guy that's kind of has to use his off speed a little more, and he has to truly pitch and keep the hitters guessing, because if you throw 4 straight fastballs to a guy, odds are he's going to hit one of them. But
no matter how hard you throw, if you see the same velocity and the same amount of pitches, eventually you're going to time it up and you're going to start seeing those pitches better. And it's going to be easier to hit. But when you have a guy like LeGros on the mound who changes speed so well and hits his spots, you're always on your heel. You're never certain of what pitch is going to come next and where it's going to be because he's so good at hitting his spots and mixing up that velocity.
That's one of the things that I noticed off the bat when we had our preseason tryouts was we did some live at bats and some mock gameplay, and I think I had 3 at bats in one of the games, and 2 of them came off Jake LeGros, and I just remember sitting in the box, and I take the mental game of hitting pretty seriously, as a lot of guys do, and I just remember thinking to myself, I'm like, I literally have no idea what this guy's going to throw next. And I think that's one of the best things you can have as a pitcher is being able to hit your spots, as well as like have the hitter have no idea what you're going to throw.
One thing to talk about that just happened in the game here, 0-2 count, and Palmer's 1 strike away from being out, and he just calls time here. And in my opinion, I think that's what started this inning, was kind of throwing that pitcher off. He does end up getting out, but he does throw off his timing when you do that. And it kind of gets in a pitcher's head if, the pitcher's not mentally strong.
Yeah, that's one of the things that a lot of hitters like to do is, even if you're, especially if you're down in the count, you're behind, 0-2 pitch, 0-1, maybe a 1-2 pitch, or especially on a full count, if you can call time right before that pitcher's ready to go and you can get them in that wind up like that, where the umpire calls time, that really throws them off. And, that's one of the things a lot of hitters like to do, and then, you're going to hear the entire dugout that, it's on you, it's your time. Like, don't let them get in your head. And I think that's one of the things that we did really well was keeping pitchers on their toes and, not being able to let pitchers get complacent with how they're throwing.
When it comes to pitching and hitting, it's definitely a little mind game. As I was saying earlier, there's a lot of things that people don't recognize throughout baseball. And if you see here 44, I'm not sure if he sets his pace differently and like comes to set when his glove and ball is together once he gets the sign. So if you like take a look here, okay, he's set, 1-2, and then he pitches. Now we're gonna see at this next pitch here if he mixes up speeds or not, and we can kind of break it down to other people who might not understand what we're talking about.
Yeah, so basically what Ryan's talking about is if a pitcher gets into a rhythm where, he comes set and then it's 1-2 pitch, a lot of hitters are going to get on that timing, and it kind of allows you to get on time with his pitch better because, it's the same rhythm over and over and over again. Meanwhile, I think, like we were saying, like a guy like Jake LeGros, who is able to mix his pitches up, change his speeds. He also did a really good job of changing his timing, especially with runners on base. Being able to do that and stay mentally focused on everything else it's really tough to do. And, it's one of the reasons, I don't think I could ever be a pitcher is just all the thinking that a pitcher has to do. And they try to say, a catcher's supposed to do the thinking for the pitcher so that he can just focus on throwing the pitch. But when it comes down to those little things like that, that's all in the head of the pitcher. And, for them to be able to stay focused, and think about all these different things at once, it's definitely a tough thing to do.
And when it comes to pitching and pauses in between pitches, it's normally something that you only see at higher levels of baseball.
Yeah, it's definitely not a common thing amongst, youth baseball or even high school baseball. It's, most pitchers are just, they get the ball and then they throw it.
And that's one thing I've noticed with 44 here is that, he comes set and it's, 1-2 pitch. Set 1-2 pitch. And then I think as the game went on, our batters were able to pick up on that and, end up getting us that little rally in the extra innings. But with that being said, when it comes to pitch timing, you have the people who, come set 1-2 pitch, next pitch, come set 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, then pitch. It's really something hard to do because as a pitcher, as you just said, you're told to let the catcher do the thinking, you just throw the ball. But when it comes to that, that's entirely in charge of you, and it's either hit or miss. It's something that you just don't develop overnight, because if you're thinking about that while you're pitching, majority of the time you're not going to hit the spots that you want, and you're too busy thinking about the breaks in between the pitches rather than hitting your spot. So it's definitely something that you learn over time, I feel.
Yeah. I got to ask, what would you say out of not just your own playing time, but what would you say is one of the funnier moments of the year, or like kind of like, one of the moments that stands out for you as being, one of the reasons we both feel, I can't speak for you, but I feel like we both feel this is one of the more fun teams to play for, just with, something funny or something goofy that happened, or.
It's honestly, it's hard to pick out just one moment. And, I think I'm going to have to think about this for a little bit, but there's a lot of moments, there was never a dull moment with this team, whether you were on the bench or it was at a practice or it was on the bus going to games or traveling to St. Louis. But I think one of the funniest moments was playing cards on the bus.
Oh yeah.
On the bus to games. So that was a big thing. There was always, 3-4 of us, and then the odd time the fifth person would come in, and then it would be a different person. But there was always that solid 4 that would play. And they asked me to play the game President, and I had no idea how to play. And
I think by the
banter
end of the
that goes-
season, yeah, I'd say I remember we tried to get you to. I was one of those guys who was playing cards, and I remember trying to convince you to play, and you kept saying I have no idea how to play, and then by the end of the season, you were pretty damn good at it.
It's definitely, when you think about it, it's a game of strategy, but it's also a little bit of luck with the cards that you're dealt, just like every cards game. But I would have to say, funniest moments is during the end of those cards games, whether you finished last or first. It was such a little thing, but it always ended up becoming a big deal, whether you finished last or whether you were first, and you had to exchange those cards at the end of the game. I think that was one of my favorable moments throughout the year.
It definitely sometimes felt we were more competitive playing cards than we were on the baseball field. That's for sure.
Yeah, so I think it would have to be off field kind of for me, and the in between the games.
I definitely say for me, it was probably I can't remember who we were playing. It was when we were at Kinsman, and Fernando struck out on a not too great of a call, and he was a little frustrated, so he went to go throw his bat to the dugout, and it just
I know
stuck to his
exactly
finger
what
a
you're
little too
talking
long,
about.
and he launched the bat over the fence, and everybody kind of just stood there, including Fernando. And the umpire, I remember the umpire saying, "I don't really have a choice but to throw you out of the game for that."
He knew it wasn't intentional. So I'm going to explain more in detail what happened. So a pitch was thrown and it was called strike 3. Fernando didn't swing at it, and Fernando, didn't agree with the call. He thought it was a ball. And it was the end of the inning. So, what players do is sometimes, throw their helmet and their bat, kind of toss it off to the side. Now that I started talking about it, it was a hit by pitch.
Fernando
got
by
hit,
pitch.
and Fernando, if you know Fernando as well as we do, he hates walking. He wants to hit the ball. He would, I feel like sometimes he would rather strike out than get walked, because he just loves hitting the baseball so much. And he got hit by pitch, so the ball hit him. And out of a little bit of frustration, because he loves hitting so much, he threw his bat with some decent velocity, nothing violent or nothing. But he was just tossing it back to the dugout, as every player's done before in their life. And he has pine tar on his bat. And for those of you who don't know what pine tar is, it's a sticky substance that helps you get more grip when you're swinging the bat, so it doesn't slip out of your hands, which is what ended up biting Fernando in the back here.
That's exactly what the pine tar did.
He went to go throw it, and the bat didn't let go of him. He let go of the bat, but the bat stuck to him, and the bat ended up going over the fence and into the stands. Luckily,
it didn't hit anyone.
Luckily, it was not near anyone, but that happened, and then the home plate umpire, Fernando, everyone was just like,
what do we do?
What are we supposed to do here? And then second base umpire, he comes out and he's like, yeah, we kind of have to throw you out. So then they threw him out, and then someone had to come in and pinch run for him at first.
Yeah, that was definitely one of the funnier moments, because I remember being on the bench there and just, it was a standard hit by pitch or whatever, guy chucks his bat to the dugout like you were saying, and then all of a sudden you just see this bat flying towards the dugout, and it just clears the fence.
And the thing is that it hit the roof of our dugout, which is, sheet metal. So it was a pretty loud bang when it hit it. So it sounded a lot worse than it was.
Yeah.
And especially at that game, there wasn't many fans. It was kind of towards the beginning of the season when we were losing those games.
Yeah, and it was definitely I think it was one of the more chilly days that we had at the beginning of the season, and not too many fans came out. I remember it being a little overcast, and yeah, that was definitely that was definitely one of my favorite moments in terms of odd things that happened.
That's definitely up there for me, not only in this season but throughout my my baseball career. I believe the score is 1-1 here in the bottom of the sixth that we're going into.
Yeah, actually, that game was that wasn't at the beginning of the season. That was the game against St. Clair that we won to go to nationals at OCAA's, I believe.
Was it?
Yeah, I think so. I know it was against St. Clair. Looking back, I know it was against St. Clair.
The Fernando, yeah, it was you guys. I think it was the first day of OCs.
He knew exactly this moment. This was a significant moment in DC Lords baseball history for this season.
Yeah, it was that first game, and I remember everybody in the stadium was kind of just in, for everybody who saw it anyways, was kind of just in awe as to that it actually just happened.
Well, as soon as it happened, it was dead silence. The bat was soaring in the air, and then everyone's like dead quiet. The whole stadium just zilch. The whole
And then it was just that,
both benches too, and then all you hear is the bang. And then Fernando, I saw him. If you look at the replay, it's online somewhere. If you look at the replay, he just goes. He surprised himself. It was honestly just a complete fluke accident, but that's sports for you.
It was after that incident that for the rest of the tournament, Fernando asked us not to do walk-up music for him anymore.
Oh, that's right.
He did that?
Yeah. He went up to he asked me and Ian Legault to go ask the guys in the booth to stop doing the walkout music. And then I said, yeah, sure, I'll go do that. And then I ended up having to go down to the bullpen. So Fernando went up to the booth and was like, hey guys, I don't want any more walkout music.
That was his punishment to himself for making the mistake there. He was like, no, I don't deserve it.
Fernando, throughout the season, he's hard on himself. And I think it's just because he expects so much. He knows what he's capable of coming from Cuba into Canada. He has high expectations set for himself, and I think he really just ended up disappointing himself, and as Jordan said there, kind of his own punishment.
Yeah. I mean, he filled all expectations that we had in terms of season-long performance. I mean, guy was the hitter of the year, rookie of the year, an all-star, and that one little thing just kind of stands out for me.
Okay, so I have it on my phone. I'm gonna put it up to the webcam. I don't know if it's gonna be the greatest quality or if my face cam's showing up on Zoom or whether it's just one at a time. But you're gonna see the bat just absolutely launch across.
Yeah, the bat just.
I think you
it
kind of
starts
just
on
saw
the left.
There.
Yeah, it starts on the left-hand side of the screen and just exits the screen in the top right corner. And it kept on going.
What platform is that video on?
I'm pretty sure.
I think it was just saved from one of our game replays.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it was a screen recording from a game replay on the OCAAs against St. Clair. Yes.
Yeah, I'm not able to play it then.
Yeah, no, I think everybody on our team immediately after the game ended went to go see the video footage of our game just so we could screen record that little incident there.
Struck out in his first at bat looking, and that last one flew out in foul territory to the third baseman.
Gets a hold of this one.
There's Johnny Mack hitting that baseball.
Going down
I feel like Johnny Mack throughout the season ended up hitting the ball hard, but he just did not get the luck with him.
Especially in this game, he later on in the season, and especially in this game, he was making good contact. He just had that bad luck of guys catching it, or he'd hit it hard right at someone.
He's really had no answer for Mosklik this evening.
Let's see if D'Amico has made the necessary adjustments. Patient on the first pitch, down 0-1.
Yeah, no, I remember that
McIntosh
this
only
was
one seemed to be
a
able to get on base.
Grounder here to second should be routine and is.
yeah, I remember this was
And number
definitely one of
2
the
as Jordan D'Amico
one of the
grounds out
most
to second.
stressful innings for us, especially me on the
The only man to
sitting in the
score here,
bullpen. I
please,
was
Durham
with
Lords.
I believe
Kraus.
I'd
Oliver
just
1
gone
for
down to the
3.
bullpen with Jason Krause
A run, a strikeout.
to get loose in
day.
case Jake LeGros needed
Also
someone to
has
take
been
over in the
awfully
7th,
impressive
and
defensively in his shortstop position.
I remember we were sitting in the bullpen, and he hadn't
get something
thrown
going
since
here
the
for
beginning of
Durham,
the
2
game when
against.
we were all getting warmed up, and so
In with
he's
that
got to be
awkward
getting
swing
loose
bunt.
if he wants to get to pitch.
Maybe
And I
that
just remember
wasn't unintentional first
he
time round.
would throw a pitch and
Certainly
I'd throw it
seemed
back to him, and then we'd
like a
kind of sit
mistake,
there
but
for a
maybe that's a
couple
little
minutes and
trick up
just
the
watch the
sleeve
game
of
because it was
Griffin
so
Oliver.
stressful.
Might be watching
And then
some
we'd just
Durham
go back to
Lords
throwing a
games.
couple more
Some
pitches, and
replays after this just to
it
see
was definitely one of the
the
more
usual
stressful
occurrence.
moments of my baseball career,
Slaps that one to first.
and that was just
So that
witnessing it from the
clips
bullpen.
to Moskalik out numbers 3, and the TRU Wolfpack
One
are gonna
thing,
go to the
one
bottom of
thing
the
to
7th inning with a chance
talk
to
about
walk off for gold.
throughout the season is
6, 7, 8.
sorry. One thing to
Bob
talk about
Richards,
throughout this
Quebec,
game is how much of a
McKenzie.
pitcher's duo it was.
Oh yeah,
Richards hasn't
Like,
had a plate appearance yet, but
baseball
Quebec
has
and
the high
McKenzie
scoring games, as we talked about earlier, where it
both haven't
was
found a hit yet.
16, 17. And then you get the games where it's like this, where it goes into
Walking over to
extras
pick
and
up
the
that
finals
baseball.
ended up being 2-1.
yeah. I mean, and
Gotta imagine this
I
is
gotta
the
say,
most
like, we'll say it
important
again.
half inning
Jake
of his
LeGros
collegiate
pitched
career.
a game of his career in this game.
Trying to send this
He
Just
definitely-
lights out.
Definitely, this was the best
Wolfpack
he pitched
are able
overall
to
throughout
score,
the
and
year,
you'll
and
be
it happened to be
all
in the biggest game. As you can see on the replay, there's the bench with all the medals coming along. Because, here we are in the bottom of the 7th.
Humber event staff getting ready for the festivities.
Everybody was getting prepared for us
Both
to either
gloves-
get walked off or
both glove awards,
go to
bats,
national or
hats,
go to extras, and
everything heading out
we
towards
just
the field as
Jake
we get
LeGros
ready
just
to award a winner.
clutched
say
up for us
championship
and
hats
sent
ready
us
to
sent us to national or to extra innings, and
And of course,
it really was
the Slugger
one of the
Gold
better
Glove
pitching performances of one of my teammates, like, in my career. Like, to be able to just perform in such a big scenario like that, and perform that well, it was awesome to be a part of that, for sure.
Definitely something to remember.
Yeah.
For
One thing that I want to say, you kind of saw it on the screen there a couple seconds ago. One of the things that I like about baseball is when it comes down to it, when most sports, basketball, soccer, the guys on the bench, they're sitting down on the bench. In baseball, majority of the game, everybody was kind of just walking around the dugout. Nobody was really just sitting still. And then, when it comes down to crunch time, I'm pretty sure we were yelling at guys for sitting down on the bench.
Yeah, we gave people, some trouble. If they were sitting down, we wanted everyone up on the bench, saying
pretty
those
sure
random sayings, keeping everyone on the tip of their toes, the edge of their feet, and keeping them excited and engaged.
I'm pretty sure majority of the guys on the bench during this inning, both sides, I don't think anybody was actually in the dugout. We were all standing on the gravel on the other side, just on the outside of the dugout.
If the replay ends up cutting to one of the benches, you'll see that there's not a single person sitting down except for, maybe the coaches. All the players are up on both sides, and it's not just for this inning. It was like since the 5th inning.
Yeah, I don't think anybody sat down except for anybody who had just come in from being on base. And, that's understandable. You're tired. You got to sit down for a second. But, even some of the guys on our side, especially, if they, grounded out or whatever, they would come into the dugout and they would, put their bat and helmet back, whatever it is, go grab a drink of water. And then they were, everybody's standing up cheering on the next guy. Like, doesn't matter that you just got out, you were up cheering on the next guy, and it didn't really matter to anybody what had just happened.
With you saying that, it kind of, brings me back to think about that meeting that we had when we were down 2-6, and then we went on that 11-game winning streak, people would get sour. They would have, kind of a bad taste if, they got out or an error was made. And, they would kind of hang their head. And, oh, that was a good voice crack.
Yeah, that was great.
One thing that we talked about in that meeting was, next man up kind of mindset. If I'm batting, fifth and you're batting fourth and you get out, don't hang your head. Okay, now it's my turn,
Yeah,
I'll pick
exactly.
you up. Don't worry about it.
Exactly. And I think that mindset allowed us to, we didn't really have throughout the season, this game we had a couple, but throughout the season as a whole, we didn't really have too many, 1, 2, 3 innings, like 3 up, 3 down innings as hitters, because, one guy would get out and we'd say, oh, well, whatever, the next guy's going to get a hit. And if the whole team's got that mentality, then, the batter at the plate's thinking, I'm a little bit more confident, I'm going to get a hit. And I think that kind of helped us, stay out of those offensive droughts. We had a couple of games like this where, as you can see, Jake Grome makes a good play on the bunt there.
PFPs,
But
baby.
Oh yeah.
How
But
taxing
I
can
think
games
just
like this be? You guys had a few extra inning games this year. How taxing is it just to play?
As someone who would play, like if someone played, going into extras, it takes a toll on you, especially, the weather that we had. It was getting dark. I would say it was probably like 1 or 2 degrees out at the time.
Definitely
mid-October.
the coldest, if not one of the coldest games that we played.
Oh yeah, it's taxing on the body, and on the mind. I think mental strength plays a huge part in games like this, where it's a long game. There's not a whole lot of action, so like to stay mentally focused the entire time is really one of the hardest things. And I gotta say, when we all got onto the bus, as excited as we were, it was about a 45-minute drive back to Durham after the game. And, everybody was excited for the first 15, 20 minutes. And then we all everybody kind of just sat down and we kind of just rested, because we knew we had what we had just done. And we kind of wanted to mentally, just take a break and just, reset, give our minds a break. And then, and then we got back to the school, and there were some people still on campus, and because it was only 8:00 at night, there were a few people still on campus, and we were excited again. I remember we got back and we were walking down to Jake Story's house, and
Baseball house.
the baseball house, and there were 5 or 6 of us walking together, and we were all screaming out "Hum Now" just across the pretty much empty campus. And the parking security guard stops, yells at us and says, "Hey, what are you doing? Why are you making so much noise?" And we said, "We just won the national championship." And she goes, "Oh, well, make all the noise you want." And I remember that, and that was a great day as a whole. It was nice to be able to have the support from all the people that were still on campus that had just found out we won. And yeah, it was definitely a great day for sure.
I think one thing that kind of we could all reflect back on throughout this season is when we were on that bus coming back after winning the championship. Sammy D had a little speech for us. We were all excited, listening to our music, celebrating as any team would. And then, Sammy D wanted to speak. We all turned the music down. We all sat down out of respect for him. And he gave us, a speech from the heart. Definitely something that I think all of us remember. Sammy D told us that, we'd have a special place in his heart for as long as he lives.
Yeah.
And it was a
Oh, for
great
sure.
it was a great way to go out of his 28-year career as the head coach. You
Yeah,
know,
I actually
to end it all after winning a championship, especially announcing it before, the championship was even a thought.
oh yeah. I mean, like we had said, Coach Sam, he told us at 2:30 in the morning after a Missouri trip, and we hadn't even started, OCAA baseball yet. And, the national championship, yeah, as much as it would, in our minds, we were thinking, yeah, that'd be cool if we could win it. It didn't really come to a reality of a thought, especially after, we started the season a little, not too great, our first 8 games. And then, we won the first two against Fanshawe, and then we were like, okay, yeah, we're back in this, we got this. And then we won another one, and then by game 8 or 9 of that win streak, national championship was definitely, that was our goal as a team. Was, we're playing some great baseball right now, and we got to win this thing, not only for ourselves but for Coach Sam. He's definitely one of the more caring coaches out there.
I think that was the main motivator for us throughout the season is, we really wanted to do it for Sammy D. That was kind of our motto throughout the whole year. Whether, we were down 5-0, in the middle of a game, and then, all the players would get together and be like, hey, let's get something going here. Come on, for Sammy D. That was kind of our motto throughout the year.
For sure. Yeah, I think a lot of guys, I think the whole team, we all felt we needed to, we really needed to win it for Sammy. That was, if we ever were in, a tough spot, that was really what we were thinking about was okay, let's do this for Sammy. Let's not play individual baseball. Let's go win this for our coach. And, I think that's, like you said, that was our biggest motivation throughout the whole year. And especially on that win streak, it was let's try and, we weren't thinking let's try and break a record. We weren't thinking let's try and set a record or anything like that. We're thinking let's every game we're thinking let's win this one for coach. Like, let's give him something to be proud of.
I was just gonna bring that up. With baseball, I think the record for the most wins in a row consecutive in MLB history is 22, and that's in a 182, game season.
Yeah.
And our season was, some odd 30 games or so.
I think including the OCAA playoffs and the national championships, I think we played. I think it ended up being like 25 or 26 games, and in a 25 or 26 game season, our 11-game win streak was, without sounding, too cocky, that was something we were really proud of. And, as you can see, Fernando gets on base there, and, I believe he steals second here early in this at bat with Riley Gray at the plate. But yeah, I mean, whenever anybody was up to bat on base, they're thinking, let's do this for the team, right? And because Coach Sammy D, he was a big focus on team guy and not individual success, and I think that's what really kind of helped us hone our focus. We can see we're getting into their heads a little bit here. We got
not even just Sammy D. I feel is that our whole coaching staff kind of drilled it into our heads that it's a team effort.
Yeah, like
baseball is one of the few sports that needs an entire team to contribute for them to be successful.
You guys end up getting the game-winning run in this inning. Do you remember how it goes?
Yeah, I believe Fernando steals second, and then if I'm remembering correctly, I think he steals second on like the second or third pitch of the at bat, if I'm not mistaken. And then
I believe he gets pinch ran for Ian.
Yeah.
Because with a runner on second and 1 out in extra innings, we're just trying to get that one run. We're willing to take that risk. And if things didn't pan out the way we wanted to, we could do a double switch and get Fernando back in and take that risk of just getting Ian to score with that speed.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's one of the things that we, that risk taking was one of our best traits as a team, I guess. Most teams in this scenario, they'd bunt the guy over for second. And, we were one of those teams where we'd say, nah, let's score him. Or, yeah, there he goes. He gets second base on the wild pitch there. And then I think that's when this is when we pinch ran. And then was this when Ian got hurt and then Fernando had to go back into the game? Or am I thinking of another game? I might be thinking of another game. But
I know exactly what scenario you're talking about, where Ian comes in for Fernando and then he ends up scorpioning, and then he comes around to score, and then
I think
Fernando
that might have been in the
comes back in.
semifinals against Humber.
With this, with having this runner on second here, I think all of us were extremely excited. Fernando gets held up here at third.
Yeah, this was that base hit Riley Gray hit, and then Fernando actually stopped at third because it was a soft line drive through the infield, and I think right here, just watching this brings chills back to me. But I think right here was kind of when we knew, we can do this. Like,
we got a good chance of scoring a run here, and what ends up happening is Palmer ends up hitting a ground ball in between second base and first base, and the second baseman did not have the greatest approach to the ball, and the commentators were saying how that error ended up, costing them the game. But when you think about it, even if he fielded it correctly, they were not going to turn 2 outs, and that run from third was going to come in to score anyways. So when you think about it, it's kind of the same result except for just 1 out.
Yeah, and, he ends up hitting a little chopper, I believe.
Yes.
Like I said, yeah, he hits a little chopper, and the second baseman, he doesn't rush in right away. He I guess he misjudged how hard the ball was hit, and he kind of waited back a little too long, and then he had no time to get Fernando at the plate. And then that kind of, once Fernando crossed the plate, I think our whole bench knew, without saying it, we knew we were going to win this game, just because we knew Jake LeGros was pitching phenomenally, and we had that much confidence in him that, like, we knew we were getting out of it. Like, if we scored this run, we knew we were winning it.
I remember word of mouth being around the bench is that, the next run, that, as you can see, he takes that bad approach there on the short hop and ends up getting through. But even if he fielded that correctly, at worst case or at best case scenario, they would have gotten Palmer out at first, because due to the short chopper being hit, Riley Gray's already at second base by the time it's fielded.
And Fernando scored no problem. So I mean, I think it was at this point where I think both sides kind of felt like we were going to win, because their energy levels just absolutely depleted after we scored, and ours just skyrocketed.
The whole momentum shifted. It was kind of in the middle once it was a tie game, and then as soon as that happened, their bench went dead silent, and you can kind of see it in the body language of, the Wolfpack. And
you can just tell.
It was kind of demotivated them. And at this time, I remember this is where it's in between innings here. I actually ended up jumping and smacking my my head off the roof of the dugout, and
because they had really short roofs, and the roof of the dugout was only like 5 feet off the ground. So if you're sitting on the bench and stood up, you almost had to lean forward to stand up. I just remember we scored, and I was in the dugout, and we all kind of just jumped up off the bench, and you just jumped a little too straight up. And that was definitely a little as much as, I feel your pain, that probably hurt, but I think that kind of like calmed everybody's nerves.
I think we definitely were a little too jumpy, and then obviously literally being too jumpy, I end up hitting my hitting my head off the roof, and it kind of brought everyone back and realized that we still had a ball game to play and that there's still a second half to this inning.
Yeah, and I think as bad as it sounds, I'm kind of glad that an event like that kind of happened to, it brought our focus back. It really did, because we went out there and the dugout wasn't just thinking oh, we're gonna win this game. The guys on the field weren't thinking, oh, we got this, whatever. They're like, okay, we got 3 more outs to get. Let's get them and let's go home. Like, let's win this thing and let's go.
Well, in all honesty, I kind of blame Sam Cocker for the reason I jumped up there, because he had a little bit of his Monster. He always drank a Monster before every game. That's how he kept his energy up. And whatever works for you. He always had a Monster energy drink, and he was drinking one, and then he gave me one right before the bottom of the 7th. So right now I'm drinking the Monster. This is my first energy drink I've ever had. I'm wired up. And then
that's right.
And then I end up jumping a little too high.
Yeah. Just watching this inning, like I said, like nothing will ever replicate the feeling that I was feeling during this game. But just watching the replay, like, it really brings back the chills, and like just to see what we actually did from a different point of view, because it's a lot different when you're in the game versus when you watch it through cameras. And like, it's just a different perspective, I guess. And it kind of just reminds me of like, what I felt, when I was there versus, what I'm feeling now. And like I said, nothing will ever top this in my baseball career. Previously and going forward, I don't think anything will ever top this, unless we can go 2 in a row next year.
And one thing with this game is that the fans were absolutely electric throughout all innings of this game.
Oh, I mean, both sides.
The bleachers were packed. With True Wolfpack being from BC, I believe. They had their parents. They flew out. Our parents were there, supporting us, and then the softball team was there for us to support. And the fans were absolutely electric.
Yeah, I think we definitely had a little bit of the home field advantage with us being, from just 45 minutes down the road instead of a 5-hour flight. But, I really think that energy kind of it boosted us a little bit more.
Definitely agree with you. So, from a baseball player's perspective, what do you think's going through Story's head right now?
To put it simply, he's probably thinking, geez, I better get a hit. But probably, honestly, like, if I was in that same scenario, it's super stressful. You're putting a lot of pressure on yourself. I think he ends up hitting a hard ground ball right back to the pitcher, unfortunately. And the pitcher makes a good play, a snag in the ball. And
you can see all the players up there.
At first. Yeah. So, I mean, yeah, he's probably just thinking, he was pretty calm-minded when he was in the batter's box. And I bet you he was kind of just thinking, I got to put the bat on the ball. And, he got a strike and hit it right back up the middle, and just dumb luck, the pitcher was able to catch it.
So it's actually right around here when I end up hitting my head off the dugout. But there you can see Krause, pitcher of the year, warming up in the bullpen in case LeGros ends up getting in a little bit of trouble here. We want to make sure we secure that 2-1 lead and, make sure this doesn't go into the 9th.
Yeah, I know that the plan was if they got a runner on second with less than 2 outs, like if they had a runner on second with just 1 or no outs, I think the plan was that Krause was going to go in, just because he's a different kind of pitcher. It'll give him a totally different look. Kraus is more of a velo guy with a big sweeping curveball.
He also locates his changeup very well. He's one of the few people throughout the league that can blow you away with velocity, but also get you out with changing speeds.
Yeah.
And I think that's what a major key to his success was throughout this year.
Yeah, I think so too. And I mean, as pitcher of the year, I mean, that's hard to do in any league. But
And there you can see
there's the chopper that the second baseman kind of fielded a little poorly there. And then I just remember being in the bullpen with Kraus this inning, and like I was saying before, he'd throw like 2 pitches and then we'd watch the game for like 2-3 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
And then, we'd throw another pitch or whatever, and we were watching. I gotta say though, it was a long run from the bullpen out to the
yeah, that big fence to run around. Here you can see Jake LeGros doing some fielding. Palmer
makes a great play over the first.
And I think one thing that's underrated about Jake LeGros' game, not only is pitch location and changing of the speeds, but he's a phenomenal fielder.
Yeah, he used to be a third baseman.
When he's not pitching, he's playing third base or first base.
Yeah, he's a
great glove, great reaction
great defensive player.
And as it shows, playing third base, he can throw it across the diamond with some arm strength.
Yeah, I do remember after the game, we were talking a little bit on the bus, and he said to me, he said something along the lines of, "I wish we could get some ice on the bus." And I said, "Why?" He said, "I can't feel my arm."
Jake LeGros did put it out all on the field in between the lines, just like everyone else on our DC Lords team.
Yeah, I mean, I can't remember the exact pitch total, but I think he was up above 105 pitches through 8 innings, which is pretty good numbers. But to throw 105 pitches in the cold weather, that takes a toll on your shoulder and your elbow.
Even players in the major leagues, they normally get the hook around 100 pitches, and that's with, major league coaching, getting those, getting the warmer weather. And as you can see, he drops in the curveball there, starts at the chest and drops all the way down to the knees. It's really hard to barrel up a pitch with that much movement.
Yeah. Yeah, it is.
And if you watch there, he ends up giving up a hit up the middle. But if you saw it there, Sam had his glove right set on the outside corner, low and outside, and Jake hit that spot. Unfortunately, he ended up hitting the baseball. But that was their center fielder, their 4-hitter. That was his first hit of the game. So Jake LeGros did a good job limiting the power batters of their lineup.
Yeah, are all you guys ready to make the run there in the dugout?
At this point, we're all on. We're jumping. We're jumping. We can't wait to absolutely sprint out. We're like, okay, one more out.
Yeah, Kraus and I in the bullpen at this point. Kraus knew there was no point for him to keep warming up, and I mean, I knew it as well. But we were kind of just standing there. He was on the mound. I was back at the plate, and we were kind of just standing there watching, knowing that we don't really need to be there anymore. But at the same time, if things get out of hand, and that runner advances to second or third, he was going to go into the game. So we were kind of just standing there. And I think both of us had this combined thought of, I just want to run out there. And,
as you can see, great defense there by Sam, blocking that baseball, avoiding that runner getting in scoring position.
I don't know about his big throw at the end, but
yeah, if you watch here, he ends up striking this batter out, and Sam absolutely chucks the baseball as far as he could into left field, chucks his mask, runs out to LeGros, and celebrates.
And none of us have any idea why he threw it into left field.
He actually ended up going after the celebration. He ran out to left field and said, "Oh, here's the game ball for Sammy D." And we're like, "What was it doing in left field?" And he's like, "Well, I threw it." None of us knew that he threw it.
Yeah, none of us knew he threw it out to left field. We just saw him jogging in from left field all of a sudden. And we were like, "Where'd you go?" And he's like, "To get the game ball."
And
And
we're
then
like, it was a strikeout, dude. What's it doing out there in left field at the warning?
and he's like, he goes, "I just launched it." And I'm like, everybody was kind of just like, "Okay then."
But
I think it was on this
definitely,
pitch here.
yeah, 3-2 count. It's either a foul ball or a strike 3.
Yeah, I think he K's him on this one on a high changeup.
Yeah. Boom,
Yeah,
there
it
goes the
was.
baseball. Chucks the
And
mask.
yes.
And there we go. If you watch
Yeah.
here, Ian does a backflip.
Yeah, Ian Legault on the right-hand side just does a backflip out of nowhere. I think it's
Number
coming up
14
right here.
there on the right side. I remember absolutely getting all my hat. Everyone was throwing hats off. There he goes.
Yeah.
Everyone was just throwing off hats. I think it was Kraus that was just taking off hats. He actually ended up scratching and like making my lip bleed because of how violently he was throwing off hats.
I don't think
And,
anybody. I'm pretty sure, as you can see, yeah, nobody had their hat on. Kraus was
majority of the hats are gone.
Yeah.
What's it called? And then and when we were doing that little standing jump on the mound, when we were all in a circle there, we were getting our feet stepped on, and my cleats got absolutely torn up. I just ended up buying new cleats. There's nothing wrong with them until, that point where we were celebrating. They got stepped on and absolutely torn up. There's a hole, the size of a golf ball. It was clear straight through, as you could see, in the middle
Yeah,
of
it
my
was
cleat.
definitely one of the most painful celebrations we've ever had.
Painful, but definitely worth it.
Oh, way worth it. So worth it. But yeah, it's just the medal ceremony. We all got our championship hats. They made sure everybody. I think that was the first thing we did was Humber had a couple of their staff come out onto the field with hats, and we just mobbed them, making sure we got one.
Yeah, I don't even remember them coming out. I just remember getting a hat handed to me. Okay, here we go. And we all line up here for the ceremony, giving out the silver medals and the gold medals.
Yeah, I think and then this is where Riley Gray won hitter of the game or MVP of the game, hitter of the tournament, and MVP of the tournament, I believe.
Yep. And this is where, as you can see, Sammy D's not out there. He's still sitting in the dugout, soaking everything in.
Yeah, this is one of those moments where he kind of just had to soak it in. I think one of the things was that we all kind of knew he was still in the dugout, and we kind of just let him soak everything in.
There's Legault getting player of the game.
Yeah, you got player of the game here, and then there's Sammy D coming out and giving the guys some hugs, getting everybody their congratulations. But
and I don't even think everyone was realizing that everyone in line was doing this, but it just felt natural just to put our arms around each other and celebrate as one. And I don't even think it was something that we were told to do. It just happened that all of us ended up doing it.
Yeah, I remember I was right beside Sam Cocker there. He had the white undershirt on, and just all of a sudden it was kind of just natural. We all just kind of were like, we're a team, like let's get in this together, and I think that's that just shows how much of a true team and how everybody was all for the team kind of thing that we had going. So
and then all of the parents on the right side there, making us feel like paparazzis are coming after us.
Yeah.
And there's Riley getting batter of the tournament, and then as soon as he goes back, he has to turn around and come and get another award.
Yeah, that was really funny. He gets called out to get an award.
I think that was Fernando coming back out. I
think
he got
Fernando
the MVP.
Came out. Yeah.
Couldn't have written it any better for Sammy D.
Yeah, that's one thing that he told us on the bus after is that, that's one great way to go out. The top of Canada out of college ball.
So I just got the stat, and Jake Legros actually threw 90 pitches over 8 innings, which is a phenomenal outing.
On average, maybe 15 pitches an inning, and he kept it under that. He threw strikes, didn't walk very many batters and forced them to swing the bat.
Yeah, and he just, when you force teams to swing the bat, you tend to get a lot of those ground outs and fly outs, and
keeping your pitch count low.
Yeah, he wasn't a very he wasn't a strikeout pitcher. I mean, he struck out, the last batter of the game for us, but he was a guy that he would put the ball in play and really trust the rest of the team, and that's one of those things that I think showed us that we had trust in each other as a team.
Any final thoughts, guys, on the national championship game?
Great way to go. Amazing turnaround from the season, and I think couldn't get more of a Cinderella story than that.
Yeah, just for me, just chills rewatching this, and I know I can speak for myself and the rest of the guys on the team, and we're looking to do it again next year. That's for sure.
Show the stream the ring while you're at it, Watson.
All right, this is our prize right there.
Engraved in everything, name, number. Amazing way to go out for Sammy D.
Gotta honor the national champs the right way, right?
Oh, of course, and we really appreciate the way the school went about getting us our rings, and we really got huge support from the athletics administration, and
yes.
It's just an awesome feeling to know that we're more than just the baseball team. We're part of the Durham Lords athletics, and it was just awesome to be able to feel and experience.
Awesome, guys. I want to thank you for jumping in and doing this for us. You guys did an awesome job.
This one thing,
no problem.
just before we leave, I did find the clip that you were talking about earlier.
Oh, Charles, coming up big.
Oh, here we go.
Hopefully we get to see Fernando's bat flip.
Is it working now?
Let's see.
Here we go. I can figure out how to work Zoom.
And I can attest to what you guys were talking about, where when it happened, nobody kind of understood what had happened. Throughout the entire tournament, obviously you get hit in the back.
Is it showing at all right now, or
no? Nothing's on the screen.
Not shown on my screen either,
but Fernando just kind of threw the bat and gave it a little too much gusto.
If you know Canada baseball, you know the Jose Bautista flip. Just imagine that, times 5.
Putting it over the fence.
Okay, I'm going to try this. Seriously, why is this doing this way?
It definitely went farther than it did up. About the same length, about 10 feet high, but that bat traveled maybe 30, 35 feet.
I tried. Okay,
that's okay, Charles.
I'll try one more. Oh, we had it. No, that's not it.
Well, if you want to see the clip, go to the Durham Lords YouTube channel or the streaming services to watch the replay of all our games. It was against St. Clair in the OCAA championships.
And it's at 2 hours and 6 minutes, 44 seconds.
There you go. Timestamp.
There you go.
Thanks for having us, guys. We appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having us. It was awesome.
So I just want to thank the DCSI as well for doing our DCSI replays over the last couple of weeks. It's been awesome to have them supporting us, and during all of this, letting some of our athletes relive some of the incredible things from quite possibly the most successful year in Durham Lords history. So for you two guys, you guys were a part of that, and thanks to you guys, DCSI.
It's been a pleasure for us, and I will say this. My mic's on, right?
Yep.
I will say, I can never know. I will say this, that it's a wonderful partnership. It's one that we definitely do hope to continue on in the future. It's definitely been an amazing year for us at the as being part of the Durham community. And it's something we definitely hope to continue.
Yeah, well, I can tell you that we hope we can give you the same kind of content again next year.
Oh,
there's
there
the
it is.
replay.
There it is. So Fernando gets hit by the pitch here.
Is in this. Oh, sound.
That's Sam there.
Oh, that's Sammy.
It's okay. Here comes Fernando. It's this at bat.
So that moves Jake Story to third and
Oh, we
Griffin
got the
Oliver
volume,
over
too.
to second base, and that brings up Fernando Suarez.
Our
I'm a good
wonderful
producer,
commentator.
people.
Designated
I
hitter
think
Fernando
we just
Suarez is
listen,
0 for
we can
3 in
hear
the
it.
ball game,
You can hear it.
but he was the OCAA batting champion this year with a 455 average,
Whew.
a 500 on base percentage, and a 673
455.
slugging percentage. And now that he's facing a left-hander
500
here,
on base
and he's 0 for
percentage.
3, you'd think he might be due to at least put something in play here. He's 0 for 3 in the game with a strikeout, a flyout, and a pop-out. And that ball hits him. That ball hits him,
here
and
we
that is
go.
going to score another run. Suarez is hit by a pitch, and that will move all the base runners up, but coming in to score is Jake Story, and that makes it a 6-1 game.
Look at the umpire. He's just staring at him. And then
Suarez
second base
threw his
umpire.
bat, was not happy with being hit by the pitch there. But no way that the
that was
pitcher was.
awesome.
Designated hitter Fernando Suarez is 0 for
One more
3 in the
time.
ball
There you
game,
go. Okay.
One more time. That was.
You can
But he
hear
was
it, dude. You can hear
the
the bat.
OCAA batting champion this year with a 455 average, a 500 on base percentage, and a 673 slugging percentage. And now that he's facing a left-hander here, and he's 0 for 3, you'd think he might be due to at least put something in play here. He's 0 for 3 in the game with a strikeout, a flyout, and a pop-out. And that ball hits him.
Yeah.
That ball hits
It's
him, and
incredible
that
how
is going
long
to
it
score
takes for
another
him to,
run.
like, get rid of the bat too.
Suarez
right?
is
He's
hit
been
by a
walking
pitch.
around with it.
And that will
Yeah, if
move
you
all
just-
the
if you
base
can
runners up,
listen
but
real
coming in to
close, you
score
can
is
hear
Jake
the bat
Story,
just
and that makes
crash.
it a 6-1 game.
There we go.
Yeah. There we go.
Suarez
Highlight of
threw
the
his
season
bat,
right there.
was not.
I go above and beyond, people. I go above and beyond.
Thank you very
That
much.
was awesome. Okay, well, thank you guys again for having us.
Definitely a pleasure.
Yeah.
Have a good rest of your week, fellas.
Yes.
Yeah,
Thank
you
you.
too.
You guys too. Thanks for everyone watching.
Yeah.